Chapter 416, Against the Great Hero. As the team that kicked out Yi Shu, Excellent Era felt uneasy. At the first club meeting of the year, this issue was presented at the table for discussion. This was a club meeting, so the participants were the heads of the different departments. For the team, both the captain and vice-captain, Sun Shang and Lu Hao, were present. For the guild, Chen Yahui was present. Apart from them, there were the heads of the research department, the logistics department, the scouting department, the public relations department. As one of the powerhouses in Glory Esports history, Excellent Era had a well-developed and organized infrastructure. This wasn't the only issue that would be discussed at the meeting. The New Year's had just passed, so they started off with good news of their business. It was only until the end of the meeting did they begin talking about Lord Grimm, who had swept the Glory community in a storm these past few days. Chen Yahui glanced uneasily at Lu Hao. Lu Hao had excellent acting skills and looked as if this was news to him. Chen Yahui couldn't pretend he didn't know. These were in-game matters and the relationship between Yi Chu and Excellent Era couldn't be erased. If he hadn't noticed this, he would probably lose his job. Luckily, he had given several believable reports to the director about in-game matters and Lord Grimm before. Chen Yahui was only worried that the club would officially order him to suppress Yi Chu. He truly didn't have any confidence he could accomplish such a task. As a result, in the meeting, when the director asked him to explain the Lord Grimm and 10th server situation, he stressed how difficult it was to resist Yi Chu in the game. Whether it was Blue Brook Guild, Tyrannical Ambition, or Herb Garden, all of them had been toyed with by Yi Chu. As for Excellent Dynasty, under his wise lead, the guild maintained a good distance away from him from the very start, so they hadn't suffered too many losses. However, because of his disturbance, all of the top guilds were having trouble developing in the 10th server. Excellent Dynasty was no exception. The director wrinkled his brows at Chen Yahui's conclusion. Their research in the 10th server was an important step in Excellent Era's plan to rise back to the top, but they had encountered a large obstacle. This obstacle was something they had created too. If they hadn't kicked Yi Chu out of the team, Yi Chu wouldn't have ran to the game. If Yi Chu hadn't run to the game, with Excellent Dynasty's huge investment into the 10th server, they would have easily gained the upper hand over the other guilds in the 10th server. No matter how you look at it, he's still a pro god. Running to the game and making a name for himself is too shameful as a pro. After hearing Chen Yahui's description of Yi Chu's might in the 10th server, Sun Shang gave a very rude remark. That's true, but for our guild, such an opponent is truly formidable. Chen Yahui obviously didn't mind puffing up Yi Chu's strength. It would be good for him if Sun Shang rushed into the game in anger and dueled Yi Chu. Even though he knew that the club probably wouldn't permit it, with his rash, young behavior, he might just do it in private, similar to what Lu Hao did. Speaking of Lu Hao, after the previous discussion, he didn't make any more movements. Lu Hao said that he would help him deal with Yi Chu, but made no such moves. Chen Yahui wasn't happy when he thought of this. What's the current situation for the guild? The director asked. It's pretty much the same as the other guilds. Because of Yi Chu's strength, he's practically monopolized the dungeon records. To the players in the 10th server, Lord Grimm and the guild he created is the number one in the server. Sigh, Chen Guo let out a sigh, the situation's a bit complicated. For now, we've moved our troops and resources to the heavenly domain. In the 10th server, we'll maintain our characters' levels and wait to see if there's any turn for the better. Yi Chu's character is unspecialized? And he had a silver weapon? Is that correct? The director asked. That's correct. Is there any information on the silver weapon? The director's gaze shifted to the head of Excellent Era's research department, Qin Yu. Qin Yu's expression was quite serious. After thinking carefully for a good while, he began, it's quite obvious what this silver weapon is. It was specially created for an unspecialized player. The design for the different weapon forms is extremely elaborate. The weapon completely solves the issue with an unspecialized needing to constantly switch weapons. Just from this, it's clear that this weapon is the work of a genius. We've studied it for several days, but we haven't figured anything substantial out yet. This silver weapon is something that has never been done before, so there's no way for us to extrapolate what its stats are. In terms of glory, Qin Yu was an extremely experienced player. It wasn't possible for someone without a good understanding of the game nor plenty of experience to become a part of the research department. The responsibility of the research department was studying equipment and to upgrade equipment. But for an unspecialized. This was a play style that had already faded away before the creation of the Pro Alliance, so the research department didn't have much information on unspecialized players. As a result, Qin Yu really couldn't make too much of an evaluation towards this silver weapon. He could only admit that their department had no idea where to start with this weapon. Where did Yi Chu get such a silver weapon? Has he ever talked about this with you? The director asked. I don't think so. Qin Yu wasn't too sure. Yi Chu was Excellent Era's captain for 7 years and had communicated with the research department many times. For one Autumn Leaf's silver weapon, Evil Annihilation, it could be said that without them, it wouldn't have evolved to such a level. Amongst the countless times they had talked, Qin Yu really couldn't remember them ever talking about this. Then can you be certain that none of the other clubs made this? The director asked. I'm certain of that. Qin Yu nodded his head. There were quite a few people at the meeting. Right now, the majority of them were silent. In reality, many of them didn't really know about the inside information on Yi Chu's retirement. They had no say in the team's personnel. But as a branch of the club, they had heard quite a few rumors about Yi Chu and the club. The director's attitude towards the issue of Yi Chu was clearly a type of vigilant attitude. From this, they were able to get a general feel for the situation. In any case, they wouldn't say too much. How to deal with Yi Chu wasn't really their department's matters. Keep an eye on Yi Chu's movements. The director turned his head to warn Chen Yahui. I understand. The other guilds probably know of his identity too, right? The director asked. Yes, Chen Yahui nodded his head. What are their stances? Retreat. Chen Yahui smiled bitterly. Even tyrannical ambition? The director asked. Chen Yahui nodded his head. Is he really going to rise up so smoothly just like this? The director looked as if he couldn't sit still, but quickly realized his current stance. No matter how it was said, Yi Chu was one of Excellent Era's great heroes. His current attitude wasn't suitable to be displayed in front of everyone. At the very least, his expression was making the others tremble in fear. After regaining his composure, he slowly said, the rumors are saying that Yi Chu is planning on creating his own team. If that's the case, even though he's certainly a person that will go down in the history of our team, he'll also become our opponent. We hope that he'll succeed, but as an opponent, we know better than anyone else how terrifying he is. We have to make proper preparations for him. He was clearly trying to save the situation from before. After saying this, the director concluded the meeting. Then, he quietly had the team and guild members stay. These were the people who were going to be at the front lines for dealing with Yi Chu. In the game, Lord Grimm wasn't hacking. This was something the officials had confirmed. The players couldn't understand why such a skilled player wouldn't be fought for by the clubs and could only guess why. After several days of fighting in the arena, Yi Chu had finally completed all the arena portion of the Heavenly Domain Challenge. Even though there were a lot of requirements such as how many wins in a row, winning in a short amount of time, winning with lots of health left. Apart from the number of wins needed, the other requirements were just like the other tests. For example, for winning several matches in a row, once it was completed, it would change from 5 wins in a row, to 10 wins in a row, and so on. For health, the first test required a win at 50% health left. After this was done, it would become 60%, then 70%, all the way until winning with no health lost. Relatively speaking, the health part of the test was easy. After all, it could be accomplished through luck after many tries. Most players were stuck on the winning several matches in a row part. Once a match was lost, all previous progress would be reset. Countless players stamped their feet in frustration at this part. Later, this part became a type of business. Quite a few players relied on intentionally losing to players in order to gain a profit from helping others complete the challenge. Because of this type of cheating, the rules were constantly being revised. But players would always find some sort of loophole around it. The two sides fought over this ever since the beginning, and it was still going on. As for Yi Shu, this wasn't a problem. How many times he won was how many times in a row he won. It didn't matter if the test required 5 wins in a row or 20 wins in a row. He would finish it on his first try. Health, time, etc. Yi Shu finished each test on his first try. Due to the many spectators watching, Lord Grimm had become known as the most efficient player to complete the arena part of the Heavenly Challenge. The Heavenly Challenge was what the players called the Heavenly Domain Challenge. They were only sad that they couldn't record or watch the quest chain part of the challenge. All of Lord Grimm's fighting in the arena had been completely recorded by the players though. Chapter 417, The Level 50 Conflict. Complete. Not just Yi Shu, all of the players who were paying attention to Lord Grimm knew that he had already finished the arena portion of the Heavenly Challenge. It wasn't that the players accurately counted every one of his wins, but rather, the number of wins a character had in the arena could be easily searched by looking at the character's info. After so many days of watching Lord Grimm, besides the silver weapon, they knew of all his equipment from head to toe. The number of wins that Lord Grimm had in the arena could be seen on his character info page. However, there was no way for them to know how much of the quest chain he had completed. But the players in the Heavenly Domain had already made their preparations. They were ready at any moment to pounce on Lord Grimm, the first level 50 character to reach the Heavenly Domain. It was true that the quest chain was difficult, but after seeing Lord Grimm's performance in the arena, the players were certain that the quest chain wasn't a problem for him. It was only a matter of time. The players weren't wrong. It really was just a matter of time. The time it would be quite long though. Chen Guo personally watched as Yi Shu took a whole 3 hours to defeat a boss. There was nothing that could be done about it. This boss had a passive that let him recover health automatically. Lord Grimm's damage output was very weak because of his level and equipment. With this automatic healing reducing the damage even further, he could slowly whittle it down. He couldn't make mistakes either because a moment of rest would let the boss heal up a bit and destroy some of his previous efforts. During this battle, Chen Guo was able to witness Yi Shu's endurance. For this fight, Yi Shu had Lord Grimm carry a huge amount of mana potions. Once the mana pool hit 10%, he would begin giving Lord Grimm mana potions to drink. Some of these mana potions were instant recovery ones, which were used at the appropriate times. Throughout the long 3-hour battle, Lord Grimm was able to keep his mana pool up. Of course, this also had to do with Yi Shu's control over his skills. If not, with an unspecialized character's arsenal of 120 kills, if he just randomly threw one after the other out, it wouldn't matter how many potions he brought. Consuming potions had a cooldown too. This amount of time had to be calculated when using skills. If potions didn't have cooldowns, then there wouldn't be a need for learning how to endure, just making sure enough potions were prepared would be enough. This 3-hour battle was, without a doubt, the most difficult test for Yi Shu. After he finished this fight, he couldn't hide his exhaustion. This was because he couldn't relax at all during the battle. A single minute of slack could require 2 minutes to make up for it. Yi Shu was truly like a machine during this and conducted the battle steadily and precisely for 3 whole hours. Even Tang Ru, someone who refused to admit defeat, fell silent after watching the battle. Tang Ru had come back on the 9th day of the Spring Festival and quickly reached level 50 as well. Moreover, she was also trying the Heavenly Domain Challenge. Tang Ru was actually quite familiar with the challenge. In the past, she had helped Chen Guo finish the challenge and had once studied it earnestly. For the sections that tested for a player's mechanics, even though every scenario was random, Tang Ru had a good mechanical foundation. She might not be as precise and quick as Yi Shu, but passing those sections wasn't a problem. In the arena, Tang Ru also tried challenging it at level 50, but she was far from being as clean and decisive as Yi Shu. Yi Shu knew very well how significant the 20-level suppression was. Tang Ru didn't have that experience. When she used a falling flower palm, the level suppression made it so that the opponent would barely be knocked back. The opponent would then use a powerful skill as he was being pushed back. It wouldn't be an instant kill, but it made it very difficult for Tang Ru. She was far from Yi Shu beating his opponents so easily. However, with Tang Ru's mechanical skill, she was probably be considered near unbeatable to playing characters at the same level as her. The 20-level suppression had caught her unprepared in the beginning, but after slowly adapting to it, she was gradually doing better and better. The part of the test that required several wins in a row made her wanna cough blood though. After all, Tang Ru wasn't as knowledgeable as Yi Shu. When she bumped into a strong opponent, she would sometimes capsize and have to start all over again. Because of Tang Ru's personality, she refused to duck away and instead continued to challenge it. Yi Shu and Chen Guo knew of her stubbornness and were too lazy to try and advise her otherwise. But today, after seeing Yi Shu's bitter 3-hour battle, Tang Ru fell silent. After all, she was no longer a noob like before. She completely understood how difficult the battle was. She knew that the key part of the battle was the ability to endure. This was something she had learned from Yi Shu before, but there was no way she was good enough to last 3 hours like Yi Shu. And if she couldn't do this, she would run out of mana. Without mana, the damage output from a level 50's normal attacks compared to the boss's automatic health recovery would only end in tragedy. Perhaps she could do it if Yi Shu was on the side giving her pointers, but this wasn't what Tang Ru wanted. After staring blankly for a good while, she finally spoke, "That part looks very hard. I probably can't pass it." Yeah, Yi Shu nodded his head. Thus, Tang Ru looked at her soft mist and saw that she would be stuck on that part of the quest chain. Giving up halfway was something that made her heart hurt very much, but she clearly knew that the obstacle wasn't something she could clear. Continuing to try stubbornly would be too unwise. Should she first go to the dungeon and practice her endurance? Tang Ru thought of the training program Yi Shu had devised for this. She turned her character around and actually planned on heading to the dungeon. "Where are you going?" Yi Shu saw her character move and suddenly asked. "I'm going to try my endurance capability," Tang Ru said. "There's no need to fix this knot at this moment," Yi Shu bitterly laughed. "Just pay attention when you practice and you'll be fine. Improving is a gradual process. It's not worth it paying so much effort just for this obstacle." Tang Ru's soft mist continued to run in the direction of the dungeon as if she hadn't heard what Yi Shu said. But when she was about to arrive, she suddenly nodded her head. "True. The obstacle isn't that important. I'm going to level, while improving." After saying this, she checked the potions she had in her inventory and rushed into the level 50 dungeon. There were many level 50 dungeons. This was because level 50 had been the level cap for 3 years. Leveling to 50 wasn't that difficult. How was the company supposed to keep the players interested? By giving players all sorts of things to do at level 50. It could be said that in Glory, players could only truly experience the joy of the game after reaching the max level. After this, as the level cap increased, more high-level dungeons appeared, but the level 50 range still had many classic dungeons or dangerous scenarios that didn't need to be closed. Once a player reached level 50, there were many wild maps and dungeons to choose from. The top guilds would naturally have more places to compete at. However, there were only a few characters that had reached level 50. At level 50, the dungeons wouldn't only be 5-player dungeons. There were 10-player ones, 20-player ones, even large-scale 50-player ones. Because there weren't enough characters, in order to run 10-player and up dungeons, the top guilds needed to party together. The top guilds currently encountered quite a few complications, mostly because of the level gap. The level 50 dungeons used to be the highest level dungeons, so there weren't any level ranges. Level 50 dungeons could only be entered at level 50 and above. But just like with the level ranges, lower-leveled players couldn't enter the dungeon and higher-leveled teams couldn't set records. Because of this, only having level 50 as the level range was a bit awkward. Right now, it wasn't possible for the guilds to form a 50-player level 50 dungeon team. By the time they could form such a large team, if the first string elites continued to level, when the other guild members arrived, they would already be past level 50 and wouldn't be able to compete for the dungeon record. The first string elites were the elites of their guilds. It was quite a problem. Should they continue to level or wait for everyone to reach level 50 and have a large team to advance together? The top guilds began discussing this. and from level 50 onwards, the same problem would occur at level 55, 60, 65. These levels were all once the level cap and would all have one level range restriction dungeons as well. At the same time, 5-player dungeons wouldn't be cared for too much. Whether it was to show the guild's strength or for good equipment and materials, the larger the dungeon restriction the better. 7 or 8-player elite teams could only strut around small dungeons. What was the point in that? Even worse, they couldn't even show their strength in small dungeons. Wasn't there Lord Grimm's team still? But for large dungeons, they believed that Lord Grimm wouldn't be able to compete with them. Guild Happy had only just been created. Apart from the 5-player team, everyone else was just a bunch of noobs. How could they compete with the experienced teams of the top guilds? How should they continue? The top guilds obviously wouldn't discuss this with each other. They planned on their own. And with Lord Grimm's recent upsurge of fame, it seemed like he was about to reach the heavenly domain. So he's coming. In the heavenly domain, the top guilds had been watching Lord Grimm attentively long ago. In particular, with how much of an uproar he had created with his heavenly domain challenge, even the clubs had noticed him. After knowing of his identity, no one would dare look down on him anymore. Chapter 418, Entering the Heavenly Domain. Entering the Heavenly Domain was an exciting event for Glory players. You have to look at it from Chen Guo's perspective. Choose a good day, relax, take a bath, pay your respects to those gods of luck, and then enter the Heavenly Domain. But for Yi Shu, after completing the quest chain, he didn't look excited at all. He just strolled right into the Heavenly Domain. Yi Shu might be calm, but the world wasn't. Getting into the Heavenly Domain was a major event. The system would publicly announce it. It would be announced to the 10th server, as well as the Heavenly Domain. This was the first announcement of this kind for the 10th server, and another one wasn't going to happen anytime soon. But because the 10th server was full of new players, many of them didn't really know about the difficulty of the challenge, so they weren't too shocked. In their eyes, it was just another announcement about Lord Grimm. But for the Heavenly Domain, their response was enormous. Since the character entering the Heavenly Domain was from the 10th server, the announcement would naturally make it clear which server the character came from. 10th server. These two words dazzled as brightly as the name, Lord Grimm. The old birds of the Heavenly Domain obviously knew that the 10th server had just opened for 2 months and knew what level they were at. Entering the Heavenly Domain at this time was definitely a record. Lord Grimm's fame these days was already great enough. Most of them had already prepared for this, so they weren't surprised. However, there were always a few slow ones. They weren't aware of Lord Grimm and went crazy after seeing that a 10th server player had entered the Heavenly Domain. The instant that Yi Shu stepped into the Heavenly Domain, he received who knew how many system notifications. The excited Heavenly Domain players had been waiting for this famous player to arrive for several days already. As soon as they saw the announcement, many of them immediately sent a friend invite to pay their respects, trying to pull him in and for all sorts of other reasons. No matter how friendly Yi Shu was, it wasn't possible to answer all of them. The Heavenly Domain had players from all of the 9 previous servers. The total population surpassed that of a single server. Everyone knew of Lord Grimm because of his recent popularity, so the number of friend invites sent had to be a record. Accepting or rejecting the invites one by one could only be done by a machine. Ignoring these invites, Yi Shu first took a look at where Lord Grimm was located and confirmed his coordinates. In the game, entering the Heavenly Domain looked like a teleport, but in reality, the servers were doing a calculation. There was no set starting position when going into the Heavenly Domain. But because the Heavenly Domain was created on year 5 of the game, the level cap had been level 55 at that time. The level 55 and up areas hadn't been created yet, so the random teleport location to the Heavenly Domain was limited to within the level 55 areas. Yi Shu checked his coordinates and looked around him to get a general understanding of where he was. Even though he was in a level 55 area and most players in the Heavenly Domain were level 70, it didn't mean that the area was empty. The majority of low-level equipment, apart from those with special effects that had a bit of value, weren't valuable to level 70 players. However, materials didn't have levels. Whether it was a piece of self-made equipment using an equipment editor or an in-game piece of crafted equipment, they often used a few pieces of low-level materials. Moreover, the lower the level of the material, the greater the amount of material was needed. As a result, even for level 55 areas, there were still quite a few players wandering around. Yi Shu didn't seek for these yet. Leveling was still his main goal. However, an only level 50 Lord Grimm couldn't even enter the Heavenly Domain dungeons. He couldn't even do any quests. This was also because of his level. Yi Shu could only grind it out for these 5 levels, and these monsters were also higher leveled. Of course, a monster that was 5 levels higher wasn't a problem for Yi Shu. However, in the Heavenly Domain, the dangers were never the NPCs, but the players. In the Heavenly Domain, killing someone didn't need a reason. If you wanted to kill, then go ahead. It was just that chaotic. It could be said that the Heavenly Domain and the normal server were almost 2 different games. One was more PvP oriented, the other more PvE oriented. Of course, the players could choose and the game wouldn't force the choice. Moreover, in order to maintain the fun for those who didn't like the Heavenly Domain, they didn't stop releasing post-game content in the normal servers either. As a result, there was also a large amount of players who didn't like the Heavenly Domain and stayed nice and safe in the normal servers to have fun. But no matter the case, the Heavenly Domain would always be a sort of attraction. Here, the materials and equipment were better than those in the normal servers. No matter what content the game company released, that distance would always be maintained. Thus, quite a few players ran to the Heavenly Domain to get equipment and brought it back to the normal servers to show off their might. These types of players were naturally looked down on up to the point where players unanimously attacked them. The Heavenly Domain players looked down on them. The normal server players hated them. With the general hate for them, there were very few players of this type left. However, it wasn't possible to eradicate lowly people. The 10th server might not have anyone like this yet, but that was only because no one had reached the Heavenly Domain. In other servers, as long as one searched the forums, there would often be posts looking to suppress this type of people. Yi Shu urgently needed more levels, so after understanding where he was, he immediately began training. It was true that level 55 areas weren't empty, but they weren't too populated either. Yi Shu also knew how famous his Lord Grimm was right now, so he didn't want too many people watching him. He took great pains to avoid others and found a place where no one was at to peacefully level. Just as he began, he suddenly noticed that there were people coming over from a certain direction. Yi Shu didn't care too much in the beginning, but he soon realized that they were heading directly towards his position. He immediately took up his guard and hid behind a wall. Then, he moved his head just a tiny bit out to see the 2 characters heading towards him. Ha ha ha, how could you be so scared? Chen Guo laughed. Yi Shu turned his head and looked at her. I can't be careless. Trust me. It's nothing, Chen Guo said. How do you know? Yi Shu said. He glanced at Chen Guo's screen and went speechless. Sure enough, it was nothing. Because among those 2 players was Chen Guo's chasing haze. The 2 had finally met each other in game. Chen Guo was still a bit excited. No matter the case, she was still meeting up with one of the gods she respected greatly, even if her respect for the god had gone down a lot after getting to know him better. Why didn't you accept my friend invite? Chen Guo felt quite good using such a tone towards a god. How am I supposed to do that? Yi Shu said as he pointed at his friend invites. The system notifications filled up the screen as friend invites continued to be received. The scroll bar was becoming shorter and shorter by the second. The amount of friend invites he was getting kept increasing. You're really popular, Chen Guo began to sweat. Yi Shu was helpless. He cleared away all of the invites. You add me first and then I'll accept, Chen Guo said, but after no response for a long time. She turned to look at Yi Shu, who just sat there silently staring at his screen dumbly. Chen Guo looked at his screen and saw that his message window had stopped moving. The entire game had froze. Frozen? Frozen? Chen Guo had a hard time believing it. With today's technology, the word frozen had practically been forgotten by everyone. Today, Yi Shu had just tried to clear his invites, but the game froze because of it. Just how many invites did he get? There were so many that his computer wasn't able to handle it in a short amount of time. Just wait a bit. Chen Guo was the owner of an internet cafe, so she still had some understanding of computers. It looked like a frozen computer, but it wasn't actually. The system was trying to clear all the invites and couldn't deal with his other commands. The clearing was still going underway. It was just that the clearing was using too many resources and seemed like it was ignoring the user. Yi Shu could only wait. From Chen Guo's screen, she saw that Chen Guo's chasing haze had a battle mage called Forest Landscape next to her. Chen Guo had introduced this battle mage to Yi Shu before. When she had left Excellent Dynasty, he had left with her. According to Chen Guo, his mechanics were just a bit worse than hers, which meant that he could really only play in-game. There wasn't much hope of him being good enough to join the team. Look at this guy. His computer froze. Hold on a sec. Yi Shu heard Chen Guo talk to Forest Landscape. Does he know who I am? Yi Shu asked. Yes, I told him. Chen Guo nodded her head. After leaving Excellent Dynasty with Chen Guo, the two had gotten quite close. Chen Guo had already told Forest Landscape of Yi Chu in private. Forest Landscape was one of Yi Chu's loyal fans and was obviously very shocked. He had hoped that he would one day meet with him. Today, after hearing that the god was coming to the heavenly domain, he immediately rushed over with Chen Guo. Once he heard that the god's character was frozen, his admiration for him increased even more. He really deserves to be called a god. How long had it been since he heard of a computer freezing from glory? God truly was extraordinary. Yi Shu sat there for 5 minutes. His screen suddenly moved and all of those previous messages were cleared. But Yi Shu quickly discovered that another flurry of notifications flashed. Players were still sending friend invites. How could Yi Shu have such a tragedy occur again? He clicked rapidly and rejected all of the invites. Forest Landscape, in-game, Chen Guo introduced him to Yi Shu. Idle, Forest Landscape blurted out, not waiting for Chen Guo to introduce Yi Shu. Chapter 419, It's not that simple. In reality, Yi Shu didn't actually have much experience interacting with his fans. The fact that he was an idol for so many years even with him hiding the entire time was simply a miracle. This type of player could only appear in esports. Facing an excited fan, Yi Shu displayed his usual calmness and didn't appear tongue-tied. He acted as if his fan was a normal person and said a simple, "Hi. I'm a big fan of yours. You definitely have to return to the pro scene," Forest Landscape said. Of course, Yi Shu said. Forest Landscape didn't say anything afterwards. Even though he was facing an idol he admired, besides expressing his sincere support, he couldn't think of anything else to say. What are you planning on doing now? Chen Guo asked. Her voice could be heard twice, both in-game and outside of the game, making it sound a bit weird. I'm obviously going to level, Yi Shu said. Let's party up. I'll carry you, Chen Guo said and sent Yi Shu a party invite. You guys carrying me might not be faster than me leveling on my own, Yi Shu said. In a party, the individual would gain less experience per monster, but would kill monsters faster. Alone, the individual would gain more experience per monster, but would kill monsters slower. Leveling speed depended on how much experience was gained in a certain amount of time, so whether or not leveling alone or leveling with a party depended on the individual player's skill and the party's efficiency. Yi Shu was a top god. There was no need to question his individual skill, which was why partying with others might not be faster for Yi Shu. But it won't be as tiring, Chen Guo said. It was true. Whether it was more efficient to level alone or level with a party depended on the circumstances. However, leveling with a party was certainly more relaxing than leveling alone, that was indisputable. Thinking of this, Yi Shu didn't persist. Leveling alone was a bit faster, but it wasn't significant enough to argue over. As a result, the three partied up. They were just killing wild monsters, so there didn't need to be any leading or cooperation. It was simply see a monster, kill a monster. Chen Guo and Forest Landscape were veteran players and were bullying level 55 monsters as level 70 players. What pressure could there be? Yi Shu might be low-leveled, but with his skill, saying that the monsters were being bullied would be being polite. There was naturally no suspense. Chen Guo and Forest Landscape had specially come here to help him level and had already decided earlier that they would accompany him all the way to level 70. As a result, they didn't have anything else planned and stayed the entire time, killing level 55 monsters. The level 55 monsters obviously had some good drops, but because their levels were too high or too low, the chances were low. All it did was make the monotonous grinding slightly more interesting. Though for the two of them, how could accompanying their idol to level be boring? Doing this was very fun for them. After leveling for an hour, the three chatted for a bit. Suddenly, they saw Yi Shu's Lord Grim stop and heard him say, "Someone's coming." "So what?" Chen Guo didn't understand. "They're heading towards us," Yi Shu said. Ha ha ha, Chen Guo laughed. The heavenly domain really is more chaotic than normal servers, but what's there to be afraid of? Aren't you a god? Forest Landscape didn't make known his position, but in his heart, he didn't think much of it either. Peeking in the heavenly domain was very normal. Being ambushed by malicious players while leveling was something most players had experienced before. Not only that, but they were completely prepared for this to happen. While Yi Shu's reaction was somewhat on the cautious side, Forest Landscape also thought that since he was a god, being so cautious for something small like this lowered his image of god a bit. But Yi Shu didn't feel embarrassed at all. He only added, "It's different." "Different? What's different?" Chen Guo asked. In the 10th server, after Thousand Waves Lake, the top guild stopped bothering us. "Do you really think they would just come to peaceful terms with us so easily?" Yi Shu said. "That. Usually. Not." Chen Guo understood the relationship between guilds quite well. If the guilds weren't fighting, it didn't mean that they were at peace with each other. It only meant that the two were equal in strength and didn't want to make any rash movements. If a guild had a problem, the other guilds wouldn't feel bad hitting it while it was down. The harder the guild was hit, the better. Was guild happy viewed in this way by the top guilds? Chen Guo already had a deep understanding of their situation. There was nothing they could do at Thousand Waves Lake, but saying that they had completely given up was something Chen Guo highly doubted. During those days, she had been helping Yi Shu try to figure out what their plans were. It was just that later, the guild showed no signs of movement. Yi Shu didn't say anything either and just left it at that. Now that Yi Shu brought it up, Chen Guo naturally associated the incoming players to the guilds and immediately said, "Are you worried that they would dispatch troops in the heavenly domain?" They were without a doubt waiting for this opportunity because if my character was to continue leveling, it would definitely have to enter the heavenly domain. But in the heavenly domain, I'm only level 50. They have a 20 level advantage and have an abundant number of troops. How could they let such a good opportunity go? Yi Shu said. You had already expected this to happen? Yeah, Yi Shu replied. Forest Landscape had heard of Yi Shu's deeds in the 10th server from Chen Guo. Hearing the two of them talk, he had a good understanding of the situation. Thinking of the 20 level advantage and that every top guild was sending in their experts to kill him, his image of his god immediately went back up and his respect even increased. He really deserved to be called a god. He pulled the wind wherever he went. Seeing those players heading straight for them, Yi Shu stayed on alert, but he didn't panic. Because he had been on guard since the start, his leveling location had been chosen with this in mind. When they killed monsters, they went through a relatively open map, so that they would discover incoming players early. Seeing that there were only a total of 5 players heading towards them without any movements elsewhere, it probably wasn't an ambush. Even so, Yi Shu had to be careful. After waiting for the 5 players to come closer and seeing the guild tags on top of their heads, the 3 were very surprised. The guild name on top of their heads wasn't one from a club. Because of how the game was set up, guilds could only have up to 10,000 players. However, a team definitely had more than 10,000 fans. As a result, the clubs would often set up branches in order to accept more fans. These branch guilds often had an obvious indicator to which club it belonged to. The guild name of the 5 players in front of them had nothing to do with any of the clubs though. There from justice, Chen Guo called out the other party's guild name. Who are they? Yi Shu asked. He could tell from Chen Guo's tone that they had some background to them. Heavenly Justice is a player guild. It's quite powerful. Their guild leader is called Lulan / I heard that he comes from a rich family and used money to create his guild, Chen Guo explained to Yi Shu. Yi Shu hadn't paid attention to things in-game for a long time, so how could he know of these types of player guilds? Oh. Yi Shu understood after hearing Chen Guo's introduction. No matter the online game, the company couldn't stop people from spending money in order to get stronger. Put some money in and even if you didn't have the skill, you could get a fully body of powerful equipment, which would be more than enough to bully the majority of players. Calling someone who spent money to get stronger as someone with no skill was wrong. Those who were willing to spend money meant that they at least cared about the game. No matter how bad their mechanics were, they wouldn't be worse than a noob. This was why Yi Shu didn't discriminate these types of players. It was the opposite for him actually. He was quite envious of them. Using money to get equipment would save a lot of time. They shouldn't have anything to do with the guilds backed by clubs, Chen Guo continued. The players from Heavenly Justice soon arrived. They didn't even look at the monsters around them and headed straight for them. If they weren't looking for trouble, Yi Shu could only guess what their goals were. There was nothing he could do. He was too popular. When they got closer, the five slowed down. But since they were in-game characters, their walking animation was set by the system, so their walking was very ordinary. However, the equipment on them was clearly extraordinary. With Yi Shu's experience, he didn't even need to look up their info pages to know that their equipment were top quality. It had to be known that even in the pro scene, not every character had self-made equipment from head to toe. A lot of their equipment were orange equipment from in-game. For these types of equipment that could be found in-game, many players had them and definitely wouldn't be hard to get for someone with money. The equipment on these 5 players would definitely make any player in-game envious, especially the one in the middle with the ID Lulan / His character had a greatsword that even Yi Shu recognized. This sword was called Sword Point. It was a level 65 orange weapon. Even though it wasn't a level 70 weapon, it was even used in the pro scene. This greatsword had a special effect, which had to do with the character's physical attack and the item hotkey. For every weapon put on a hotkey, the character would have a 10% increase in physical attack. In Glory, there were a total of 12 item hotkeys. In other words, if they were all weapons, the character could have a 120% increase in physical attack, which was very powerful. In theory, Sword Point allowed for the highest physical attack in the game. The issue of how to self-make the special effect of Sword Point had perplexed the research teams in clubs ever since the weapon had appeared in-game. TLN, Nam, can you update the glossary if there is new terms? Thanks. I can update the glossary after I finish checking a chapter or an arc. It would be a bit slow though. Chapter 420, I'm his boss. There were only things you couldn't think of, but there was nothing you couldn't make. This was one thing the game was proud of. It didn't matter if their words were just an exaggeration. It was indeed true. As long as you could find the item in the game, it was 100% possible that you could make it. This meant that Sword Point's unique special effect could be added onto a silver weapon. However, even after many years of research, no one had found a way to do it. Sword Point's unique special effect made it popular in the game and was considered as a top-tier weapon for swordsman classes. Because of its power, it was obviously a very rare drop. Lulan / had one, but he probably hadn't gotten it himself. That greatsword is called Sword Point. You should know of it. It wasn't a secret that Lulan / possessed Sword Point. Chen Guo was still introducing him to Yi Shu, but she didn't know that Yi Shu had already recognized this weapon. I know. I already saw it, Yi Shu said. Oh, Chen Guo didn't say any more because Lulan / and his 4 party members were in front of them. Very soon, a chat bubble appeared over Lulan /'s head along with a smiley face. Nice to meet you, smiley face. This was one of the most popular ways to chat in Glory. The player used his voice to communicate, but because the character couldn't show the player's facial expression, many people like to use emojis as a replacement. Nice to meet you too, smiley face. Yishu did the same and added a smiley face as well. Brother Lord Grimm, it's an honor to meet you, Lulan said directly to Yishu. Lulan it's an honor to meet you too, Yishu replied. Liar. You just found out. Chen Guo looked down at Yishu and sent a private message. It's just manners. He probably just found about me too a few days ago, Yishu quickly replied. Tell him you're Yichu. Then it really would be an honor to meet you, Chen Guo replied. She was looking forward to see this scene. It would be very amusing to see. Before Yishu could reply, Lulan continued to speak. Brother, reaching the heavenly domain at level 50 is unprecedented in the history of glory. You're amazing. I wonder which server you used to play on. Perhaps we know each other, Lulan said. There was no way a new player who had just started playing on the new server would be able to finish the heavenly challenge at level 50. Even an incredibly talented player like Tang Ru, who had passion, strong mechanics, and a god personally instructing her, couldn't complete the challenge. During the past few days, many people had been curious about Lord Grimm's identity. Every famous player in the heavenly domain had been suspected. However, during the Spring Festival event, these characters were all busy in the heavenly domain, so the suspicions towards them were quickly dispelled. Then, people began to recall the retired elites, who were perhaps starting the game again. After greeting him, Lulan began figuring out what server Yishu's main account was from. Yishu didn't try to hide it and answered, I used to play on the first server, but I hadn't played on it for a long time. First server, Lulan and his 4 friends took a deep breath. If he really had started playing when the first server opened, then he was senior of seniors. But there was also another possibility. He had started playing later and had simply chosen to start in the first server. Brother, do you have an account in the heavenly domain? Lulan asked again. He felt that someone so skilled must be an experienced player. It wasn't possible for him to not have a character in the heavenly domain, and the character must have been famous once. Not anymore, Yishu replied. You give it to someone? Lulan said. You could say that, Yishu replied. What's the name of the character? Lulan thought if he knew the name of the character, he would have a much easier time figuring out his identity. Lulan was right. After Yishu told him his old character's name, it was really obvious who he was. One autumn leaf, Yishu said. Chen Guo was excited. This was the moment she was waiting for. This name sounds really familiar? Do we really not know each other? Lulan thought for a while. But right after the pause, before Yishu could reply, emojis popped up above the heads of all 5 characters in the other party. Shocked, sweating, surprised, a face that turned black after being struck by lightning. Lulan chose an unbelievable emoji and he quickly followed, one autumn leaf. You don't mean that one autumn leaf, right? Is there another one autumn leaf? Yishu laughed. A moment of silence. This time, there wasn't any emoji on all 5 of the characters. They seemed to be lagging and didn't move at all. Are you saying you're Yichu? Lulan regained his composure the fastest. Yes, that's me. Yishu didn't hide his identity. Crash. Everyone heard a crash, but didn't know where it came from. But they could hear someone quickly speak, God Yichu. He added an emoji as he talked, so everyone knew who had spoken. He was one of Lulan party members and a battle mage. As a battle mage, admiring Yichu was very common and logical. After a short pause, someone finally awakened and muttered, is this for real? It's real, Yishu smiled while saying. Can you prove it? Lulan asked. I don't have to prove it. It's up to you whether you want to believe me or not, Yishu laughed. Lulan was startled, but he was right. He immediately followed, fine. If you really are God Yichu, then that's even better. I've heard that you want to go back to the pro scene and make your own team? Yes. I've thought about it, Yishu said. What a coincidence. I've been thinking about building a team for a while and I've been preparing as well. But good players are hard to find. God, are you interested? Lulan asked. Then too bad for you. The god has already signed a contract with me already. How could Chen Guo bear it? Seeing a person try to dig him out from right in front of her, she jumped out and pushed Yishu aside, standing in front of Lulan while speaking. Who are you? Lulan hadn't paid attention to Chen Guo and forest landscape after greeting them. These two characters weren't famous in the heavenly domain. I'm his boss, Chen Guo said. What boss? Lulan was puzzled. You don't know what boss means? Chen Guo looked down on him. Investor? Lulan said in a more professional way. Kind of. Chen Guo suddenly lost her confidence because all she did was provide food and shelter for Yishu. She hadn't really done much else for him. Lulan was quite famous for having money. No one knew what his background was, but there were quite a few rumors saying his family were at least millionaires. In any case, it was a lot stronger than Chen Guo's background, who only owned an internet cafe. Having support from someone like this might be better for Yishu. It didn't seem quite right for Chen Guo to jump out like that. After all, she and Yishu hadn't officially signed a contract or anything. Even if the guild had already been made in the 10th server, what did that mean? They were still far from starting yet. Thinking about this, Chen Guo wasn't sure. She turned around and looked at Yishu, but all she saw was him laughing. Even so, he said to Lulan yes, she's my boss. Just this sentence made Chen Guo's confidence come back, she even straightened her back as if Lulan could see her. She said, did you hear that? That's what boss means. Do you still need to ask? Lulan thought it was a bit suspicious, but this was their first time meeting. He knew nothing about Chen Guo's background. He heard Yishu admitting it himself, so it naturally wasn't a good to try and buy a player in front of her. He said, I see. What a pity. He followed, then if it's convenient, how about we add each other as friends? Later, if anything comes up, we can help each other. Yishu agreed and sent a friend request to Lulan Chen Guo paused for a second because Lulan also sent her a friend request. Of course, Chen Guo accepted too. Lulan looked around asked, are you 3 leveling? Yeah, Yishu replied. Then we shouldn't bother you guys any longer. Let's keep in touch, Lulan said. Let's keep in touch, Yishu nodded his head. Lulan turned, carrying his sword point, and left together with the other 4 players. On the other hand, Chen Guo was in a daze. After a while, she turned around to look at Yishu. They left just like that? What did you expect him to do? Yishu asked. He should have pulled out an empty check and then give it to you. Fill in how much money you want and then come with me or something, Chen Guo said. Yeah, what a pity. Why didn't I meet someone stupid like that? Yishu said. That's not being stupid. This is your value. That's how much you're worth in glory, Chen Guo said. Sis, he can't even confirm if I'm Yichu or not, Yishu said. That why I said he's stupid. He can't even figure that out, Chen Guo continued to look down on him. Yishu didn't say any more. He could tell that Chen Guo had some sort of prejudice towards players who got power through money. She probably thought that they were useless except for being rich. She turned her camera to look in that direction. Lulan/'s group had come fast and left fast. They had gone far away enough that their IDs couldn't be seen clearly anymore.